have won the championship in the 22nd annual Alhambra Catholic Invitational Tournament, and they break the string of championships at 5 by the Stags. There they are, the happy Calvert Hall Cardinals, and in so doing, finish undefeated, 34-0, and you've got to say win the mythical national championship on this court here at Frostburg State College.
Those who had the pleasure of knowing Paul Kinney will remember him not only for his outstanding athletic ability, but also for the way his personality touched those he met. He was a special young man, sensitive to others, who took time to make people smile and laugh. Paul loved his family, and certainly he loved basketball and his teammates, but what Paul loved more than anything else was life. No one ever got more out of life than Paul Kinney. His loss will deeply trouble us, but we may rest assured that Paul has achieved what every man strives for: eternal peace and happiness. Our only consolation is that he did indeed pass our way and touch our hearts.
Paul came out of game, substitution, Tooch subbed, and we ran down to the far end of the court and came back up, and my brother Paul said to me, he said, "Daryl," he goes, "look at Paul." And as I turned and looked at the bench, Paul was falling over. And then he slid down the bench and then he fell on the court.
And Paul came out of the game, and he sat directly behind me, and I heard this loud boom, and I turned around, and he had fallen directly into my arms, and I knew that there was something terribly wrong at that point.
You know, it's difficult when you're 16 or 17 years old. You see a teammate, you know, die right beside you. And, you know, it still haunts me today. He was such a good person. Everybody loved Paul Kinney, and we dedicated our senior year to Paul.
Rated number 1 in the nation, Calvert Hall has gone undefeated in 34 games. It's a unique bunch of kids that I've had for 3 years. The reason why we win is because we always play together, we pull for one another.
Mark Amatucci graduated from Calvert Hall back in 1970. He was on his way to become a Major League Baseball player, but he ended up better than that. He ended up a legend.
At the age of 24, Mark Amatucci had the opportunity to teach and coach at his alma mater, a special experience many have shared. But for Amatucci, it would be different. It would be the beginning of a lifelong journey, more than buckets. After 2 years, he was named the head basketball coach of the Calvert Hall Cardinals.
Our director was looking to make a change, and about a month after the season, he came to me and asked me if I wanted to interview, and I said absolutely. A week after that, he came back and said, "You want to do the interview tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah." And about a week after I did the interview, he came and said, "You want the job?" So it was like bing, bang, boom.
With a JV championship under his belt, Amatucci began his varsity career with high aspirations. Aspirations that would stay with him throughout his career. Never quit. Always expect to win. Practice in detail, win games. Amatucci is first and foremost a teacher. The court is his classroom.
I get the itch every time I come in here, Coach. My whole life has always been dedicated to, working with young men not only in the classroom, but I was fortunate to have a little bit of ability and do okay in the gym as a head coach. And any Calvert Hall student that steps on this floor to be a part of the program, wow. That's just something special. A little half-court work on getting to the basket with one dribble, number one. Number two, using a good ball fake to get the defender to leave their feet. And once that happens, all right, we take a big first step and we're going up and under to the basket. And it's a lot easier said than done. And again, if you follow detail, if you really work on your detail in terms of getting low, getting a good ball fake, all right, getting the big first step, going up and under when a defense, stands up, you're going to score.
I think that we quickly found out that his intentions were that he always had your best interest at heart. He was a difficult coach, to say the least.
I was very difficult to play for. I wasn't a nice guy. Just because I made them do things they didn't want to do.
We practiced hard, we ran a lot. Sometimes we had practices without a basketball at all. We were a good team, a quality team, a reputable team. We would come back after wins and practice as if we had lost the game.
I think his style was motivating from a psychological standpoint, if that sounds crazy, but he always found ways to tap into me, good or bad, but mainly good. We always talk about one incident, but that's about it. I think Tooch was one that always wanted me to be the best I could be.
I don't think it would be a far stretch to compare him to like a Bobby Knight.
And they've just ejected Mark Amatucci from the ball game. He just picked up, I believe, his third tee, and he's gone. Amatucci is livid. And the players are trying to keep Amatucci away from Mike Moser, the official. I've never seen a coach this upset, Joe.
No, he's not as crazy as Bobby Knight. Bobby Knight was just out there. Again, he got the best out of his players, but he did it in a different way, a different form. The only thing that Bobby Knight and Tooch, as far as I'm concerned, have in common is just they yelled.
But really have a care for his players and have a love for the game. A really love for the game and want to play the game, want the game to be played the right way.
What made Amatucci angry was if you didn't play 100%. You didn't have to have the best game that you could play, but you had to play 100% every day. Not just in the game, but in practice as well. If you didn't give 100%, he would let you know during the game in a timeout. He'd let you know at halftime and let you know after the game as well.
His main priority was commitment. You had to be committed to the team. You had to be committed to what that meant. So things like showing up on time, not missing practice, playing as hard as you possibly could at every second you were on that court.
As we look at Coach Mark Amatucci talking to his Calvert Hall Cardinals, they are undefeated this year, but that is in jeopardy with 3 minutes to go. DeMatha with a 2-point lead.
Tooch is as tough as he needs to be given whatever situation. Sometimes he knows to be a little more stern, but Tooch was a sight major, so he knows when he needs to lighten up. But the good thing I loved playing about Tooch was that he had expectations of you, and you wanted to meet those expectations, not only for the win, but to make him happy as well, because he was a hell of a coach, and he's a hell of a human being to this day, and I love him like a father.
His style was hands-on, but yet he gave you room, challenging, motivating. As I coach, I use a lot of Tooch's values and ideas and thoughts.
I wasn't expecting a lot of things when I got to Calvert Hall. I thought my work ethic was, I consider myself as a hard worker, but at Calvert Hall, it wasn't good enough for Coach Amatucci. It wasn't good enough. I had to work harder. He brought the best out of me, and I appreciate that from him. It was like chaos. It was like chaos. But he's a great coach. He's a hell of a coach, and I enjoy playing for him.
From the start, he was focused on building a unique team culture and recruiting players with the skills and mentality he valued. To be successful, Amatucci realized he not only would be competing against other teams, he would be challenging the status quo. Calvert Hall was a school like many others in the late 70s, lacking racial diversity. Amatucci was determined to be a trailblazer. His players of color would have to understand the complexity of their situation. They would be under a microscope on and off the court.
Well, I think it got back to recruiting. I think you have to have good players. But if you're coming to Calvert Hall, you got to be a good student. I mean, the word student athlete, is one we take seriously. When you talk about diversity, you're talking Calvert Hall basketball. We created diversity in the Calvert Hall basketball program. Again, back in 1978 when I got the job, less than 2% of the population were made up of minorities. And that's why, again, with David and Daryl coming in as the first two players of color, it was a little touchy. It was a little, don't screw up. It's a little, get good grades. It's a little, don't do anything stupid in the cafeteria. Because if that happens, then, the microscope is going to be really amped up and, we're going to be in trouble. So by bringing people like Daryl, okay, and David, and then Paul Kinney, and then Paul Edwards, and then Pop, and then Mark, by bringing in just quality young men from quality homes, quality families, we were able to change the diversity aspect of this school.
It was shocking, only because of certain things I kind of expected or kind of didn't expect, caught me off guard. And it's funny because me and Poppy just shared some of the crazy things that, coming home, what we encountered that day or during that time or whatnot. And, I think that all of that helped me grow. I think that was seeing life in a different environments, Calvert Hall environment. Then I go home and I'm in the city and inner city environment. And we used to always joke about we had to speak and live two languages, You go out to Calvert Hall, you're this way, you got to watch what you say, how you say it, and you come in the city, we get on that bus, then, we can go back and we can say our language and feel comfortable and like, okay, so we had to turn it on, turn it off, so, but that was the growth in us, the maturity in us, and it worked out for us.
Ask Tooch what he's most proud of other than his family, and he'll tell you December of 1979. That's the day he started 5 black players.
That was kind of like unacceptable in a lot of areas. And I never, thought about it either way. It was just like, I'm putting the best players out on the field or on the court.
I love to say that Coach Amatucci was way ahead of the curve when it comes to diversity and inclusion, because he didn't care whether you were black, white, red, yellow, green. All he cared about was that you were going to work hard, you were going to fight, you were going to be prepared, and you were going to be a good team player.
How did this family thing start? It started with me, going and finding the right type of student athlete to come into the program. Things just snowballed, the word got out that, hey, if you want to come to Calvert Hall and you want to come and work hard and you want to get a good education, there's this crazy guy out there who's going to get up your ass, 24 hours a day if he can. But at the end of the day, it's an opportunity for us, meaning the players, to come in there and play right away and learn the game, but more important, learn how important it is to, understand diversity and understand, how you have to get along with people, and have to learn that, the culture of Calvert Hall, all right, needs this kind of input, and not only to improve its basketball program, but to improve the school.
Yeah, my mom and dad were both middle-class people. They worked extremely hard. They drew to Amatucci when he came to recruit us. All they wanted for us was to have an opportunity that they didn't.
They had some pieces in place, and then Paul and I helped take it to the next level with Dave and with Marty and Kirby. Those guys really set the foundation of how we would play. How Paul Kenny and myself and my brother and Mark and Pop and all of us would play, because it started with Dave Blackwell and Curbs. We're probably two of the quickest guys in the league at that time. And, and they taught me and they taught Paul how to be successful, what it takes to win. We didn't win every game, but we doubled the amount of wins that they had the year before.
Well, it goes back to the beginning. Mark and I came into Calvert Hall together. We kind of grew up at the Hall over my 4 years, right? So had an inauspicious beginning.
It starts from the top. It starts from how Tooch recruits. He recruits people that could be a part of the family, people that have the same beliefs that he has. And with that, it trickles down. When you have my brother and I, and then you have Mark and Pop who grew up together. You have obviously me and Paul. Then you had Dwayne that was with them. And then when you bring the new guys in, again, they know us, they respect us, and then it trickles down to them.
I played with actually Dwayne Farrell and Eddie Oliver that particular year, 12-14. And so they were coming to Calvert Hall. That was their goal, to come to Calvert Hall. So, we wanted to stay together and play. And so actually that's how I got here.
At the end of the day, we decided to, hey, let's go somewhere and run our own show, make our own name and our own legacy. And
even during my JV year, the varsity coach, Tom Ackerman, had asked me to, kind of get out and start recruiting. And basically, from my experience, coaching down at Madison, I knew that if you're looking for players to build a program, that was the place to go.
There was this guy just walking around in a black trench coat, and I had no idea who he was. But after that game, I remember he started showing up more regularly at our games, and then I learned who he was.
Chiefs came to look at us when we played in the city. We played for Lafayette Gardens in the city. He came down and looked at us and watched us play there. He came and sat down with my mom and my dad and had a good conversation, a good, strong man-to-man conversation with my father, and let him know that if we came to Calvert Hall, we would end up being quality individuals, good young men who get a quality education, and we'd have an opportunity to have some success playing basketball.
This guy that, like I said, being resilient, kept insisting that we just come for a visit.
In the spring of '79, Amatucci's recruiting hard work pays off with a dynamic duo, Mark Wilson and Pop Tubman. Adding to Paul Kinney, Darrell and Paul Edwards, Mark Kaufman and Jeff Yost, the Cards built a powerful lineup.
Once the little point guard leader went to Calvert Hall, the next year, Dwayne, Eddie, Fern, here we come, all right? Pop become friends with Darrell and Paul. Hey, we got something here.
We was trying to build a dynasty at Calvert Hall, so I came to Calvert Hall.
The Cards built a powerful lineup.
Darrell Edwards, Paul Edwards, Paul Kenny, Mark Wilson, and Pop Tubman.
And they delivered, going 28-3 and capturing the 1980 Baltimore Catholic League Championship. The Cards savored their championship but realized they weren't satisfied. The Catholic Championship wasn't enough.
Well, the starters were Mark, Pop, Darryl, LP, and Paul Kinney. And we had Jeff Yost coming back, Mark Kaufman, our sixth man, and the big dog that we added was Dwayne Farrell. And Dwayne came in as a freshman, and he just turned everybody's head. And we initially referred to him as the aircraft carrier. I then went and called him the Great One. Dwayne Farrell, the Great One. People would say, it doesn't look like Dwayne is working hard. And I would say, no, he just makes everything look easy. When he did a 360 slam in his first game, I thanked the Lord because we would never have to play against him.
Undefeated in 34 games. It's a unique bunch of kids that I've had for 3 years. The reason why we win is because we always play together. We pull for one another.
Any team that walks on our court knows they better be ready to play.
Well, coming to Calvert Hall was a process of Mark Wilson, Coach Sarge, Coach Wells, Coach B. They had a lot to do with that. They gave me the foundation for basketball.
He didn't really have a desire, but his buddy down the street was Eddie Oliver, who Dwayne was a year older.
Dwayne Farrell, we've been knowing each other since we were 6 or 7 years old.
He told me, he said, Dwayne, you want to come down and play some rec ball with me? I was like, nah, man, not really. I said, I'm more into just playing in the backyard, in the alley and stuff with my neighborhood friends.
We lived in the same block, and we built the basketball goal out of a bike rim and a piece of wood for the backboard in the alley. And we would play all day. He was dunking at the age of 10.
Eddie wanted to play. So I picked up Eddie. I said, where's your schoolmate? I don't know whether he want to come, Coach.
But then he started losing interest. He didn't want to play no more.
Go up, knock on the door. I see Dwayne's father. Lo and behold, I worked with Dwayne's father at Bethlehem Steel.
As a friend, I kept him motivated, and I kept him going as far as playing basketball because he didn't want to play at all.
But he convinced me one day, he said, man, I need you to go with me somewhere. So I said, where we going? He said, I'm going to go downtown. Will you walk with me downtown? So we proceeded to go downtown and we walked, and all of a sudden I realized we weren't going towards the city. And I said, where are we headed to? He said, well, I got to stop by this place real quick and pick up something. So I get into this place, and it was Madison's Recreation Center. And as I'm walking in, I'm saying, okay, man, well, I said, what do you have to get? He said, well, it's down here by the gym. So I get down there to the gym. All of a sudden, I'm in the gymnasium, and he's standing there talking to Sarge.
Dwayne came, and then he realized. I don't think Dwayne really, at the time when he was 13, really realized how good he could be.
And while I'm standing there, I'm looking at the other end of the court, and Mark Wilson is down there playing, shooting around on his own, just shooting some baskets, knocking down some jump shots, dribble drives and stuff like that.
So Dwayne them come down and like, we ain't know who this, kind of scrawny country kid.
I hear Mark says, Dwayne, hey, you, come on down here. You want to shoot some? I was like, no, not really. He said, man, come on down here, shoot a little bit while they talk and stuff like that. And so I said, okay. So I walk down there. So I take a few shots. He passing it back to me. I take a few shots and make a few layups. And then I rebound for him and I throw the ball back to him. He makes some shots and things like that. Then all of a sudden he said, you want to play some one-on-one? I was like, I'm up to the challenge. I'm from Baltimore. I play in the backyard and stuff like that. And so I'm like, okay, sure, I'll play.
Me and him used to always play one-on-ones or whatever. He blocked my shot every now and then, but I, school him, talk smack to him.
And I was like, wow, this guy can really play. I said, I'm not used to the guys in the back alley being able to score on me this easily. And Mark was able to, nice little pull-up jump shot, hesitation, go by me. And then I was using my physical athleticism against him, going over top of him, trying to use my quickness and strength.
The next summer, we play AAU. The next summer, Dwayne went somewhere down south, some country, Virginia somewhere. And when he came back, this brother like Karl Malone in high school. We're like, yo, what'd you eat? Yo, where you been? He came back. He had grew like maybe 6'3", 6'4". Everything just got massive big.
He used to lift weights a lot, and he just started growing. He started getting stronger, and started jumping higher.
But all his talent was just natural. But he had a head for it. But I'm gonna tell you who really got in his head. The little guy. Mr. Tubman.
And Mark and Pop, those two guys talked to me so much when I was playing with the Buccaneers, and then BNBL and Project Survival. They would say, man, we would make a great team if we all just kind of got together and play on one team, one high school team together. And I was like, you know what? I think that would be a good team. I said, because I really wasn't interested in going to Dunbar. And because there were so many of my friends that were going down there, and I wanted to play against those guys.
After much anticipation, the Cards got down to work with practice opening in mid-October. The first break in their rigorous preparations wouldn't be until Thanksgiving Day. Thanksgiving is a noteworthy day at Calvert Hall, as since 1920, the Cards faced their arch-rival Loyola Dons in the Turkey Bowl at Memorial Stadium. Thanksgiving 1980 would be a memorable one for a much different reason. After an upbeat practice on Friday, the Cards headed 2 miles down Putty Hill Avenue to scrimmage Parkville High.
Well, in 1980, when I came home for Thanksgiving, that was that unforgettable weekend when scrimmaging at Parkville, Paul Kinney suffered a massive heart attack.
I remember being at the end of the bench, and Paul came and out of the game and sat down right next to me, and I tapped him on the leg and said, "Good game." And we began watching the game again, and all of a sudden I felt his leg, because he was very, obviously sweaty, slide against my leg, and it caused me to look over. And right then he slid off the bench, and I remember just his eyes, his head going back, and his eyes being very large.
I think it was Mr. Thomas that came out of the stands and started working on him along with Tooch and, some other people that were there. And we were just standing around watching, and we just had no idea, obviously, at the time that was going to be the last time that we would see him alive.
I had to stop by the hospital. I went to St. Joe's, and it was early, probably 6:37, 7 o'clock, and I walked into his room, and his mom was in there by herself, just holding his hand and wiping the tears, wiping his eyes. And he was on a ventilator and everything. It was very, just something that I had never experienced before.
I remember going to the hospital. I remember being there most of the weekend.
It was the first time, I think, in my life that I could actually realize what that was about.
Paul Kenny was a great person, great human being, great lively spirit, perfectly healthy individual. Was slated to go to the University of Maryland. And Paul was such a great person that I believe he passed because his heart was too big for his body. He didn't have problems with his heart, but he had such a big heart that his body couldn't handle his heart. And I honestly believe that's one of the reasons why he passed. And he was one of God's angels and God took him. Unfortunately, those things don't happen in our time, they happen in God's time, but yeah, I think his heart was too big for his body.
I remember being at the funeral. I know we were all pallbearers. I remember his casket seemed very heavy just because, he was he was 6'6", or big guy. And I think we were all in our gold jackets, and I felt very proud.
Paul made a lot of people wake up, and his funeral was so huge. That was the first time in my life that I had seen so many black and white people come together for one great cause, and that was to celebrate his life.
It was like it wasn't real. It wasn't real. You see him lying there. This just a few hours ago, he was giving me 5. Dwayne, how did I do? How did I do? How did I do?
And I remember being in the hallway with Coach Amatucci. He and I sitting, waiting to hear the decision that fateful day of they were going to take him off life support. And I remember seeing a broken man. Coach was just devastated. But instead of sitting there and wallowing, he would come over to me that night and see how I was doing. I've never felt such love and compassion from anyone.
It was hard. I would go home in the evening after practice, and I just sit in this chair in my small living room, in my apartment, with the lights out. I was a basket case.
And it stayed with me, and I thought at that time, I said, how do we go forward? How do we move forward with this? Because psychologically, I thought we all were damaged by that. And how can we play another game without him? How do we move forward? And I knew that at that time, some of us would need counseling. Some of us would need to just walk away from it for a minute. Some of us need to just dive back into it. So I think everybody had a different way of dealing with it. And for me, I just wanted to get back out on the floor and play and honor him. I wanted to honor him.
This got to the point where we weren't even doing the things that we used to do. We weren't running. We weren't getting conditioned the way that we should in order to be successful. And we recognized that as players. But we needed somebody to lead us in that direction, in the right direction. And that's when we went to Tooch after one practice, and we were sitting there on the bench. We all were sitting on the bench, and we said, Tooch, we need to talk to you. We're like, we know what you're going through. We feel your pain too, but we've got to get through this together. We have a goal for this season. Our goal is to win this championship again this season, and it's to win it for Paul. But we can't do it ourselves. We need you to guide us. You can't stop being who you are. You can't stop getting after us, when we're not doing what we're supposed to do, or you can't all of a sudden make us stop doing up and backs. Those are the things that got us to the championship last year. We need to continue to do those things this season. You got to get out of this, and if you need to talk to us, we're here to talk to you, but whatever it takes, we have got to come back around.
The season opened with Bishop Walsh in Cumberland, Maryland. The game was the opportunity for the frustrated Cards to make a profound statement of their commitment to honor Paul.
After Paul Kenny's death and we played our first game up at Bishop Walsh, Dwayne obviously stepped into the starting lineup, and probably with halfway done the first quarter, Dwayne came down to break and Pop fed him and he did a 360. So
that answered a lot of questions about how good Dwayne Farrell was going to be. You know, whenever you go down to D.C., you know you're down by at least 8 or 10 points even before the game starts. So we go down there. They have a great program, a really great team, a lot of major Division I players. Anyway, we're going back and forth. It's a tight game the whole time, and we did get screwed on some calls early on. But we're hanging in there. Everybody's playing together. Nobody's, getting upset with the calls. And, we come down, I think with maybe a minute or less to play. And we were up 2 with the ball. And again, there are a couple questionable calls there that allowed, Dunbar to pull ahead by 1 point. And we still had a chance to win the game at the buzzer. And, we just never got a legitimate shot to, to beat them down there. And that was a game that stuck in everybody's craw.
After an early season 1-point loss at famed Dunbar, D.C., the Cards got in gear, motivated by Paul Kinney, and began to display their signature style. Play hard, play fast, play 32, take no prisoners.
I will always tell them that I cannot turn my head when you are not appropriate and feel like I'm doing my job. Okay, if I'm turning my head, I'm not doing my job.
In early January, as the tough Baltimore Catholic League was about to get underway, Amatucci and the Cards faced a difficult emotional hurdle. Prior to the league home opener versus Mount St. Joseph, a formal ceremony honoring Paul Kinney was held on the gymnasium floor. Kinney's number 42 was officially retired. His teammates wore black uniform patches and the number 42 on their warm-ups.
We kind of dedicated the season to Paul, and we had a nice memorial, before the contest. Before I was supposed to get up and talk to everybody in the gym, I was like walking around outside. It was freezing cold, and I'm thinking, I don't know if I can do this. But again, once I got in there and got the feel of everything and realized, look, this is something that I need to do. We got through that, and we beat St. Joe, which was a very close game, but a big win for us, for the beginning of the Catholic season.
The Cards moved undefeated through the regular season, sweeping top rivals Gibbons and Loyola.
Back then, Gibbons was loaded. Ray Mollis, the great Ray Mollis, who's a Hall of Fame coach in the Baltimore Catholic League, and they just had great players. Gibbons was always a challenge, but for some reason, going back to the attitude of the 80, 81, 82 teams, they just couldn't beat us. And they tried to play our game, and Coach Mollis was very good at trying to use a little psychology to try to get to me, and it didn't work. It got to the point where our guys, unfortunately, I had to tone them down. They'd be laughing at them during warm-ups because, they were all pumped up and high-fiving and, talking trash, and our guys were just looking at them and saying, okay, let's play. And we actually were laughing at them. And, I don't know if that's good sportsmanship, but that's the way it went.
League rivals resented the Cards' success and made every effort to slow down their momentum.
TC was really making a move in the league to try and be competitive with everybody else, and they had brought in some really good players. And 2 of the guys were the Dawson twins, and they were about 6'7", 6'8", and pretty good players. They would later transfer to Dunbar and help them win a national championship. But they were kind of like, they were gonna, take care of business with our guys that night, and they were kind of pushing and shoving and talking trash, and our guys have been through that, and basically, we didn't let it bother us. We just went out and played the game, and we were late in the fourth quarter. The game was basically over. I think it was a blowout, and then I was getting ready to get some of the guys some extra time off the bench. And all of a sudden,
there's a lot of, again, elbows flying around and, somebody saying this, somebody saying that. And next thing I know, Paul and Daryl are in the middle of a brawl, and then everybody else jumps into it. And, I come out there, I just bought a $35 back in 1981, $35 pair of slacks was a lot of money. And I'm trying to pull our guys out of the pile, and a TC kid came up from behind me and shoved me. I'll be damned if I didn't put a hole in my slack. So now I got really kind of worked up about it, and again said some things to their head coach. And in the meantime, Coach Baker, who's usually more of a, he's going to calm everybody down, and he's like a peacemaker. I see Coach Baker running down the sideline after the head coach from TC like he was a raging bull. And everybody was just, they were just letting everything loose. Now, the irony of this is there's only one guy, okay, who did not get into the brawl. And the lure, according to Coach Baker, is that Mark Wilson sat in the corner of the entire fight and asked why he didn't get into it. Mark said he was guarding the warm-up jersey. So we had a little fun. We had a blowout win.
The Cards weren't just stirring up league opponents. They were creating a buzz in all of the Baltimore Hoops community.
The Catholic League of that time, you could almost say it was like a little Big East. Remember the Big East of that period? You had these dramatically different coaches with different attitudes, and the teams reflected the coaches. And I think that's what happened in the Catholic League, where all of this just came together in, a certain period. And it was also, there was also the history of the Catholic League having split off from the city schools the previous decade. So that was at play there too. And that's why the Dunbar Calvert Hall game was ultimately so important as a sporting event. But the Catholic League at that time, that was a really big deal.
Talk was building on street corners, bars, in restaurants, barbershops, and newspapers. Maybe there was a new sheriff in town. An outcry rose for a showdown between the two powerhouses.
I'd like to see the game come about, not only for Dunbar's sake, but of course for the entire Baltimore metropolitan area.
The Baltimore News-American provided a forum to resolve the dispute. The newspaper organized a charity doubleheader on the campus of Towson State University. The preliminary game was Mackin DC versus Baltimore Lake Clifton. The Cards and Poets would be the feature game.
All of us played against each other from time to time as we're growing up. I mean, we can beat and bang each other up, and then the next morning we all go into the corner store to get a newspaper, read about it.
Number 2, Dunbar, 23-2 on the year, and a perennial Baltimore power. They're usually the team to beat, but this time it's a toss-up as they try to stop top-ranked Calvert Hall.
We've got to stop them at their transition game. Calvert Hall has been very successful in the past of controlling the boards and getting that ball out and running. And we've got to kind of neutralize that and hopefully have someone back there to try to stop that break.
Is this the game of the season, Saturday night?
Well, we're treating it like a normal game. Every game is the game of the season.
We were going to play our game, which meant we're going to take Dunbar out of their game. So basically, we're going to play man-to-man, baseline to baseline. We're going to push the ball, play transition on offense. And, basically, again, the idea is to wear Dunbar down.
I remember mostly the lead up to it. There was a big deal. It was such a big deal trying to get the game put together. And then when it did get put together, I mean, it was that was quite the crowd.
The Dunbar game was there was a lot of hype, and the whole city, wanted this thing to happen. So we put the game together. It was at the Towson Center, sellout crowd.
The game sold out almost immediately. The crowd was 5,500, with an estimated 2,000 turned away at the door.
I can remember, I got 10 tickets for my friends, and 9 of my friends scalped their tickets for $50 each.
Dunbar is Dunbar.
Right.
And Dunbar was number 2. And I think with Calvert Hall, even though you got Lakers number 1, wanted to play Dunbar. At that time, who wouldn't? Because Dunbar is Dunbar.
The game did not disappoint. The crowd electric. The game was intense from the opening tip.
Yeah, I think we're down 2 at the end of the first quarter. And again, I think obviously when you're playing in front of like 5,500 people, and the intensity, I think the guys were maybe a little tight.
Both teams landing most of their offensive punches, with the Poets having a 38-35 lead at halftime.
At halftime we're down 3, and I'm thinking we're in really good shape. It wasn't anything that we weren't doing. I think that Dunbar was also playing pretty well. And at that point, the game was basically even up as we went into halftime.
With the strong play of David Wingate and Russ Williams, the Poets began to pull away in the third quarter and led 62-52 at the end of 3.
We come out and Dunbar just came out better prepared than we were. We weren't pushing the ball like we wanted to. We weren't creating turnovers. We weren't stopping penetration. And we were giving up too many, second and third shots.
The Cards have been down before and never forgot their never quit mentality. Also to a man, they believed Paul Kinney had their back. Playing more aggressively in the fourth quarter, forcing turnovers and making stops, the Cards chipped away the Dunbar lead. The Poets rallied to match the Cards' charge, and with a minute 24 left, they maintained a seemingly insurmountable lead of 80-71. And Matucci called timeout. Those words proved to be prophetic.
Reporters asked these athletes, what were you thinking? Well, hell, he was thinking about winning the game. He was thinking about making a shot. I mean, what else could he be thinking about? He wasn't thinking about his girlfriend or, what I'm going to eat after this.
Just the people, some people walking out on us. We're looking around, and I couldn't believe they were leaving the game, thinking it was over with. And
I was just thinking about how we're going to win this damn game.
The Cards scored on the inbounds play coming out of the timeout. They turned on their pressure and earned turnovers. With 38 seconds left in regulation, the Cards cut the margin to 1, 80-79. With the arena at fever pitch, an uncanny turn of events unfolded. After Calvert Hall took a 1-point lead on a Darrell Edwards jumper, a chair skidded across the floor from the Dunbar bench area. The likely culprit was esteemed Poets coach Bob Wade, who vehemently denied doing a Bobby Knight imitation.
That's the only game I ever seen coach could throw a chair across the court and still be in the game. But that's my personal opinion.
Turn on the tube, what do I see? A whole lot of people crying, don't blame me, but point the crooked little fingers, everybody else. Spend all the time feeling sorry for themselves. Victim of this, victim of that. Get over it. Get over it. All this running and crying, bitching and fit. Get over it.
And today he still doesn't want to admit that, which I understand, but he threw the friggin' chair.
Initially, a technical foul was called against Dunbar. The Cards would benefit from the free throws and the possession to follow. The Dunbar sideline erupted. When the smoke cleared, the referees not only removed the technical foul with possession, but also nullified Edwards' go-ahead basket. Despite the uproar, the Cards did not panic. After a Paul Edwards' basket is disallowed, the Poets go up by 2, 81-79 by a converted Woods free throw. A quick outlet off the free throw reached Tubman and an outside lane streaking down the court. Pop's quarter jumper fell short, but a hustling Darrell Edwards knocked in the rebound. The Poets had a chance to win with Woods earning an easy shot under the hoop. Unbelievably, Woods' shot rolls around the rim and falls away as the buzzer sounds.
they were up on us again. Remember, they were up on us, and that's when Coach Wade made that substitution, putting OJ in the game. I think he came in for Gary Graham. Pop ripped him a few times and scored, and I remember Wingate missing a 1-and-1 and someone else missed a 1-and-1. And I remember that we had that opportunity coming out of the timeout. Paul, we're talking, him and I talking, and he said, let's switch on when they come together. And when we got out on the floor, I didn't switch. I remember thinking, our principles were not to switch. But I didn't discuss that with Paul after he had already said, we're going to switch. And I remember, Woods was wide open. We call him Turtle. And his leg just buckled. I don't know what apparent reason. His leg just buckled and gave out, and I'm thinking, thank you, Paul Kenny.
Oh, when Kevin Woods makes that shot, Turtle makes that shot, I mean, all he had to do was drop that thing and the game's over. He hits that 99 out of 100 times, and that one time he missed, it was because Paul knocked the ball out of there. No doubt in our mind, he gave a little blow and knock it away. Because like I said, Woods could jump out the gym, and he's been doing it all year. He's been doing it for so long. And for him to miss that, and there's also, my brother Paul, for Woods even getting back there and get that opportunity. His butt should have been back there. Woods shouldn't have got that alley-oop anyway. But his butt didn't stay back like it was supposed to. But yeah, that was definitely Paul's magic right there.
Overtime 1. The noise in the arena is deafening. Neither team scores. Overtime 2. Russ Williams with a pair of free throws gives the Poets a late lead. Freshman Dwayne Farrell strikes back for the Cards, tying the game at 83 with 23 seconds left. At the end of the period, the teams remain tied.
Going to the third overtime, I'm saying I better wake up and stop overcoaching. Basically, we weren't doing again what we do to win games. So I just told the guys in the huddle, I said, hey, look, okay, we got this. All we got to do is go out and play our game. All right, so we're going to go out, we're going to go get them, we're going to get some turnovers, okay, we're going to run the break, and bing, okay, bang, boom, the game's going to be over, and everybody goes home. So basically, I was overcoaching, and I just let them go out and play their style.
It was incredible, man. Like the second and third overtimes, the people had come out of the bleachers, mind you, and they're standing directly behind our benches when we're trying to have huddles. And there were girls actually giving me massages during the timeouts. I'll never forget that. I was actually getting massages during the timeouts.
Overtime 3. The Cardinals took control, scoring the first 6 points of overtime, leading 89-83. The teams traded baskets before Tubmans made free throws in the final seconds, which sealed a 94-91 victory for Calvert Hall. Pandemonium broke out. The team chanted Paul Kenny's name in the locker room. The game would be a source of pride for the Calvert Hall community for years to come.
I remember my older brother, my older brother left the game. We were down 9, he left and went home. Man, they gonna lose, man. I told you they were gonna lose the game. And when we came down that street, driving, blowing our horn, he's like, what's wrong? What happened? I said, we won that game. He said, no way y'all won that game. He said, no. I said, win the triple overtime. Man, he collapsed on the porch. He was so mad. I said, you missed the greatest game in your life.
I think that they realized that they had accomplished, something that probably not a whole lot of people thought would happen. And as it turned out, it was probably one of the greatest high school basketball games that were ever played. But the guys, as usual, it was like, hey, we took care of business. We did what we always do. We never got down. We always stayed focused. And, we come back and win the game when we were down 9 with 1:24 to go.
With an historical triple overtime win over Dunbar, next up for the Cards, the famed Alhambra Catholic Invitational Tournament. While the team was ecstatic with their victory over Dunbar, the emotional and physical drain of the game, the week, and the season would severely impact the Cards on their quest to win the Alhambra. Alhambra fans and media looked forward to the Cards going head-to-head with Washington-powered DeMatha for the championship. After a hard-fought win against Philadelphia Catholic League foe Father Judge, the Cards hit the wall against Washington's Archbishop Carroll, the Carroll team led by Jack Bruin. It was a big letdown to not make it to the finals. Amatucci and his staff had to dig in to get the Cardinals prepared for their consolation opponent, Roman Catholic, led by the legendary Speedy Morris. A focused and determined Calvert Hall team knocked off the Cahill-lites 64-57. The Cards finished 29-2, third in the nation, undefeated Catholic League champs, Baltimore's best, and to a man, not the least bit satisfied.
You remember over at Parkville, a scrimmage game, we lost Paul Kenny. So that season was dedicated to him. So every time we stepped out on the floor, it was a tribute to him in the back of our minds to do and play as hard as we could because we wanted to honor him, and we wanted to honor him in a positive way. And those 2 games that we lost that year with that, I don't even remember who we lost to that year. I know one was up in Alhambra because we didn't win the championship. But those 2 losses were devastating because, in a sense, we disappointed Paul.
Rated number 1 in the nation, Calvert Hall has gone undefeated in 34 games. It's a unique bunch of kids that I've had for 3 years. The reason why we win is because we always play together. We pull for one another.
When most teams are gassed and they're tired and they're struggling to get to the end of the line, we're still going. I mean, we're still coming at you.
Mark, we all, of course, know about the tangibles of this great team that you have, but what about the intangibles?
The biggest intangible is their attitude. They're winners. They're winners off the court and they're winners on the court. They're 75-5 over the last 3 years. They don't like to lose, and they know what they have to do in terms of sacrifice in order to be a winner. I think that comes from the attitude that they've developed before they came to Calvert Hall. They're student athletes. They work hard at school. They go to study hall, and then at the same time, they're able to go on a court and get that cohesiveness that makes them a winner.
Each year in July, Prep Hoop fans look forward to Street and Smith's Prep Preview. In the summer of 1981, readers turned to the rankings to find the Calvert Hall Cardinals as number 1 in the country. The ranking was echoed by USA Today and Basketball Weekly. Compiling a 57-5 record over the previous 2 seasons, the players had a swagger. They were prepared to take on any team, anywhere. There was not a lot of locker room chatter about the ranking. They were not impressed by it. They believed it. Amatucci believed it too, and assembled one of the toughest schedules in the nation. The Cards were lined up to compete in tournaments in Las Vegas and at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. They would play tough Washington foes Spingarn and Mackin. In the always tough Baltimore Catholic League, their games against Cardinal Gibbons were moved to college arenas. Except for the loss of Darrell Edwards, the Cards returned all their leading players. Sharpshooting Pat Sass, all-around guard Eddie Oliver, and a rugged Vernon Hill joined the Cards, making a strong team even stronger. From day 1 of practice, Amatucci was all business. He took his ever-present intensity and amped it to a new level. The team had 2 specific goals: win the Baltimore Catholic League for the 3rd consecutive time, and to take the Alhambra crown. One controversy was simmering. From the start of the season, local fans and media were clamoring for a Calvert Hall Dunbar rematch. In the era before Twitter, letters to the editor about a rematch were regularly submitted. From the beginning, Amatucci made it crystal clear he would consider a rematch, but not until after the Cards played in the Alhambra.
Let me talk about the controversy about why we didn't play Dunbar in 1982, the year we won the national championship. And the facts are that when we came out of 81 and winning that triple overtime game, a month later, obviously everybody was clamoring for a rematch, which I was totally open to. I had no problem, with trying to schedule that game with Dunbar, especially after the fact that we beat them the first time. All right. What happened during the summer is that Street and Smith came out and ranked us number 1 in the country, and that was in June. At the end of June, I made a public statement, to the media, which directly related to playing Dunbar, that we would play Dunbar, but not until after the Alhambra tournament.
First of all, let me ask you this. Do you feel like Amatucci is running and trying to hide?
No, I don't think Mark is trying to run and hide. I just think Mark is really he's got his team into consideration. He's thinking about the welfare of his kids, and like he said before, he's concerned about winning the Alhambra tournament and, of course, the Catholic League. No, Mark is not running. He's not that kind of guy. He's a competitor.
Amatucci and the team were not about the controversy. Loftier goals were directly in front of them, beginning with the season opener against Spingarn with future Georgetown star Michael Graham. After taking Spingarn down 63-51, the Cards immediately faced a huge challenge from Washington, D.C. Catholic League Mackin High. The Mackin squad was led by future Duke star and NBA player Johnny Dawkins and BC and NBA player Dominic Presley. The shootout was held at Catholic University before a packed house. Trailing by 12 at the half, the outplayed Cards were lambasted by Amatucci in their locker room at the break.
I was pissed. We came in there knowing they got Johnny Dawkins, they got Presley, and then they got big guys inside that like to run. They like to play the same way we play. And, it was the second game of the year where you'd already beaten Spingarn, which was a big win. But it's like, hey, we can't have any letdowns. So I kind of went after Wilson at halftime. And, he was playing Johnny Dawkins. He was okay with that. He wanted to have that matchup. But offensively, he wasn't giving us anything. So I went after him more than anybody else, but I think they got the message, and fortunately we came out the beginning of the third quarter and we just took control of the game.
In the second half, the Cards turned up the pressure and ran transition efficiently to get the win.
I remember Mackin game early in the season up down there. They were beating us by 12 points at halftime, and we played them at Catholic University, and their coach was going off at, he was just at halftime. They were like kind of celebrating, you're the number 1 team in the country, you got them at 12 points and all. And what he forgot was we were on the other side of the wall, and it was a thin wall. And so Tooch just starts going, listen to it. So we came out, this was something, so they're ahead by 12, it's by roughly 12. You could probably verify this if you went back and looked at all the box scores. But it was like we came out in the third quarter and got we got 3 baskets in about a minute and a half or 2 minutes. All of a sudden it was a 6-point game. And you could just see the faces of them and us, the game was over.
Leaving BWI early on the 26th of December, the 7-0 Cards were off to the Nike Prep Challenge in Las Vegas, Nevada. A tough 16-team bracket awaited the Cards. The Cards easily played through the first 2 rounds. The semifinal against St. Bernard from Playa del Rey, California, 20th in the nation, was led by Corey Gaines, a UCLA commit, proved to be a tough battle. After leading at half, the Cards trailed by 9 with a minute 52 to play. The Cards did not panic. With seconds remaining, down 64-63, Calvert Hall forced a jump ball. On the ensuing jump ball, Mark Wilson stole the tip and dashed in for a buzzer-beating layup to seal the win. Another Paul Kinney moment.
Kind of gave me like kind of a fast break type of pass with a tip. And, I don't know if I took 2 or 3 dribbles to get there and laid it up. And And I think after that, that's how I got the nickname Money.
Prior to the championship, the Cardinals train looked headed for a derailment. The guards and forwards were at odds.
All right, so we're out of Vegas, and we just win the first 3 games of the tournament. And it's the night before we're playing Valley High School from Nevada for the championship of the tournament. And this is a team that's got Freddie Banks, who goes on to play at UCLA. So, we're rolling. I mean, we played some really good teams. We played well. I thought, everybody was in the right frame of mind to go out and win another championship. And the night before the game, the manager comes down to my room, knocks on the door, and says, "Coach, we got a problem." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "All the forwards are going on strike. They're not going to play tomorrow night." All right. So I said, "What the hell?" So I get up, go down to their room. I walk into the room, and they're all in the bed. This is Vernon Hill, Paul Edwards, Dwayne Farrell, and Charles Sikorsky. And of course, Vernon and Paul Edwards are the ones behind this. And I said, "What's going on?" And they're saying, "Coach, we never get the ball. We do all the dirty work. Okay, we rebound, we pass, we do this, we do that, and we don't get the ball, so we're not playing tomorrow night." And so I said, "Get out of bed right now, and I want you in my room in 10 minutes. So I go back to the room with the other coaches. I get on the phone. Okay, I call the guards. So you got Pop, you got Mark Wilson, you got Mark Kaufman, you got Pat Sass, Larry Flower, Teddy Frick. I said, "Everybody come down to my room." So they all come in, and one side is filled with the guards. The other side of the room is where the forwards are sitting. So I'm talking, and I'm trying to talk some sense, and try and resolve this issue. All of a sudden, there's a bottle that flies past my head, hits the wall. All right, Pop Tubman had taken a beer bottle, threw it across the room, trying to hit Paul Edwards, and it almost hit me. So I got up. I said, "That's it. Everybody out of the room." I said, "I don't want anybody coming out of the room the rest of the night, and we'll take care of this tomorrow." So it ended up that Joe Baker took the guards to the movies, and then I took the forwards to lunch, trying to get them satisfied. That's just a part of the drama, I guess, being in Vegas for 5 days. It all worked out. It's part of the family lore about the history of Calvert Hall hoops.
In the final, against Valley from Las Vegas, 2-time Nevada State champs led by Freddie Banks, the teams traded baskets most of the game. The Cards took a 3-point lead, 68-65, with 1:08 to play, and eked out a 70-69 win. Farrell was the MVP.
For Calvert Hall head basketball coach Mark Amatucci, each day holds new and exciting rewards, especially when your team is the #1 ranked prep basketball club in the nation. Now take this morning, for instance. There was a letter from Ray Meyer of DePaul and a similar letter from Digger Phelps of Notre Dame. Now, these are only 2 of the hundreds he has already gotten, making their pitch for Mark Wilson and others on this year's undefeated team. And when you're #1, the pressure is constant. Is there ever any let-up?
I don't know, Hope. It's, like I said, a very demanding schedule that we play. Tomorrow night's game is Mount St. Joe included. And everybody's looking to knock us off. Everybody's looking to try and take away the top spot from Calvert Hall.
As the calendar turned to January, the Cards had accomplished much, but had yet to secure their most valued objectives. Next up, the Baltimore Catholic League season. The Catholic League season opened with blowout wins over TC and Curley. Sandwiched in the early league schedule were 2 wins in showcase games at the University of Maryland and Villanova University.
Yeah, I think with all the people around, especially early in the year, you have to make some adjustments as far as keeping everything organized and making sure the kids, aren't losing concentration. But they help me as much as anybody because, again, they're very mature. They've been together for 3 years, and they understand, what their job is as far as trying to win the Catholic League.
After a big win over league rival Mount St. Joe, the Cards headed to Philadelphia and the world-famous Spectrum for the Pepsi Challenge.
Pepsi Challenge up in Philadelphia, big-time tournament. We're going there after we had just got back from Vegas. And there's this big press conference before the tournament, and Camden's coach is Clarence Turner,
And I think that they were, in some publications, ranked number 1 with us at that time. So he likes to run the score up. He likes to beat people like 150 to 10, and they don't stop the brake, put the brakes on. They want to go out and just blow people out. And he's kind of looking at Coach Baker and I, and saying, hey, we're not really afraid of you. You haven't played us at this level of talent that we have, and basically we're going to beat your ass. So Joe and I, we're looking at each other and looking at him, and it's like we're laughing. It's like, okay, let's play the game.
In addition to the Hall, the challenge field included number 2 Camden, New Jersey, with Billy Thompson and Kevin Walls. Long Island Lutheran with Augusto Bonelli, and Philadelphia's Frankfurt High, who was led by their leading scorer, the 6'6" Rico Washington. The Cards knocked off Lutheran 68-55 in the opener and faced Camden in the showdown final.
They were ranked number 2 in the nation. We were ranked number 1 in the nation.
Played the first game on Saturday, and we won our game, and then the Camden played. And we're watching the game, and it was like Pat Sass and I, we're like, there's no way we're going to beat this team. Look, they're big, and I don't know if it was just the atmosphere kind of seeing us. So we're like, ugh. So he goes back and he calls his father, who wasn't going to come. He says, no, there's no way we're going to beat this team. And so he's, well, I'm coming up. I don't believe it. I got to see this.
Camden's coach, Clarence Turner, was known for his arrogance. Amatucci and his squad clearly noted Turner's condescending attitude towards the Cardinals. Per their signature style, the Cards' retort would be made on the court.
Billy Thompson was the number 1 player in the country at that time. He was had signed to go to Louisville and ended up going to the NBA. But when we played him, he was 6'8", averaging 23 points, 15 rebounds, and he was Mr. Basketball.
So we're at breakfast, and Paul Edwards is down there talking like Muhammad Ali, like what's he's going to do to Billy Thompson. It was like amazing. And then maybe we can, who knows, maybe, but he really just stood up and said, he's nothing. I'm going to take care of this guy.
So they look at us and don't understand, as many teams did, why we could be the number 1 team in the nation. But they didn't know what we were bringing to the table.
The Cards trailed 33-29 at the break, but trailed 44-41 at the end of 3. A thundering dunk by Thompson gave the Panthers a 55-50 lead with 4:30 remaining.
They talk about a dunk that he picked up in the lane and dunked it, and still to today, nobody wants to own up to being the one that got dunked on.
Billy dunked on LP. We still joke about that.
We're down, I think, 5, with 3 and change. And Billy Thompson had just come down. He got a steal, and he came down all by himself and did a 360. And I think he slammed the ball over Paul Edwards' head, but LP denies that. He said he was on the bench.
My story to that is Tooch had taken me out of the game. I came over to the bench, and when I turned around, that's when the thunder broke. And it was not on me to this day.
Camden made this big dunk, and they're all jumping around, high-fiving it. We just pushed the ball down the court, and I think got a layup before they even turned it. They didn't even know what happened. So they're big high-fiving, and all of a sudden, we just scored.
So we go down 5 with 3 and change, and they got momentum. And Steve Mazzotti, aka Wolfie, one of our illustrious assistant coaches, he said, you better call timeout. So we call timeout, and Wolf goes, hey, you better make a move here, or we're done. So it was pretty prophetic. I mean, I didn't really jump up and down a whole lot with them. When they came back to the bench, I said, look, we got 3 and change. We've been here before, which we had, and we've beaten teams like Camden, last year and this year. And this is what we're going to do. So we're going to come out, we're going to trap right away. And, we're going to look to get some, really quick, easy baskets. And when we're not trapping, we're just going to pick up, the full court man to man. And we gotta take, the ball out of their hands and give us a chance to score in transition.
Out of the timeout, the Cards went to the half-court zone press, forcing 2 straight turnovers and cutting into the margin.
Kaufman causes a turnover. I think Wilson or AP scores or LP scores. We get another turnover. All right, we score. We're up 1. They come down, miss a 1-on-1. We come down, we score.
The Cardinals took a 61-60 lead on a layup by Wilson with 1:40 left.
And then we had to come back. We had the lead, then we lost. Then we had to make a couple shots down the end and a couple free throws, playing in the spectrum. So, I mean, it was same thing, man. You just got to make plays.
And before you know it, hey, guess what, Clarence? You're running on empty. And, we pull away, and I think we ended up winning by, maybe 4 or 5.
A steal by Tubman led to a Pharrell layup, and a Paul Edwards three-point play sealed the 67-62 victory. The Cardinals had spoken. Tubman earned MVP honors.
Pop's MVP of the tournament. It just solidifies us being number 1 in the country. And it was a great tournament. And, we came away with more confidence, and we beat some good teams.
And the controversy between Calvert Hall and Dunbar continues.
So we beat Camden in a very close game, second game of the tournament, and that just strengthened our position as being number 1. Well, 2 or 3 weeks later, Dunbar goes up to play Camden on a Sunday afternoon, single game. Dunbar blows them out. So now Dunbar blows Camden out. Calvert Hall only beats Camden by 5. Dunbar should be number 1. And in order to clear this whole thing up, Calvert Hall's got to play Dunbar. And at that point, I just stuck to my guns. So that's the big controversy about why Calvert Hall and Mark Amatucci didn't want to play Dunbar.
It was no time to celebrate. There were still strong opponents looking to knock the Cardinals off their perch. Next up, mighty Cardinal Gibbons. The game was moved to Towson University because of the demand for tickets. Despite a snowstorm, over 5,000 spectators jammed into the arena for this marquee matchup. Gibbons comes into the game 21-1. Wilson 24, Pharrell 24-12, Paul Edwards 14 as the Cards pull away 84-74. After the Gibbons game, the Cards went on to beat Loyola 80-70 with Wilson recording his 1,500th career point. The Cards get on a roll with a streak of relatively easy wins. The second Gibbons game sold out at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Wilson and Tubman are late for the game and are benched by Amatucci. The Cards defeat the Crusaders for a second time, 74-67. At arch-rival Loyola for the Sports Illustrated game, the Cards take no prisoners, routing the Dons 86-63. An article on the Cardinals and the relationship between Tubman and Amatucci would be an SI feature in the weeks to come. The Cards earned their 3rd consecutive regular season championship, compiling a 29-1 regular season record over the span. The Cards rolled through the league tourney, defeating Loyola and Mount St. Joe to win their 3rd consecutive tourney championship.
Can't disable the power of my label. Def Jam tells you who I am. The enemy's public. They really give a damn. Strong Island, where I got a wildin'. That's the reason they claiming that I'm violent. Never silent. No dope, getting dumb. No claiming where we get our rhythm from. Number 1, we hit you and we give you some. No gun, it's still never on the run. You wanna be an S1 grip until you win, and then you come again. You know what time it is. Impeach the president, pulling out my ray gun.
Next up, the anticipated final versus 27-3 DeMatha, a blowout winner over Cardinal Gibbons in the other semifinal. The Stags featured future Duke star Danny Ferry, Michigan State commit Carl Valentine, and Leroy Allen, Mike Alexander, and Drew Comlow. At the pregame coaches brunch, DeMatha's coach Morgan Wooten subliminally put the pressure on Mark Amatucci and the Cards, noting DeMatha's number of Alhambra championships and the anxiety the Cards must be feeling in attempting to earn their first championship.
And they always have this breakfast, for all the coaches and the reporters the day of the game. And hell, it's like 8 o'clock in the morning, right? And the coaching staff, we had been out the night before to a real nice establishment called My Place in West Virginia, and we had a good time there. We were actually being very generous, and and polite by taking one of the DeMatha assistant coaches home with us because his guys left him at the bar. So we were being nice guys. Anyway, we go to the brunch, and it's not we, it's me. All right, because nobody else wants to go down there because it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and I can hardly see 2 feet in front of me. And you go to the breakfast, and they got omelets, and they got eggs, and they got oatmeal, and they got bacon. So somehow we get to the end of the breakfast, and everybody talks about the game. And Morgan's going to try and do a little psychology and scare tactic with me, get me all anxious and nervous. And he says that DeMatha's, we've been here like 7 times in a row. And we know what it means to be in this championship game. You know what? It's really hard if it's your first time around. And I'm just looking at him, and I did the same thing. I'm just laughing. I'm saying, yeah, I'll see you tonight. So I get my shot. We get on the elevator together. He's getting off before I am. So he's getting off the elevator, and I pat him on the ass, and I said, good luck tonight, Morgan. So I felt, okay, pretty good.
The Cards were relaxed and ready for the big game. They strolled through the town, window shopping and having lunch. A quiet van ride took the Cards up the hill from Cumberland to the arena at Frostburg State University for the team's last challenge. A packed house awaited the arrival of America's #1 team. Players and coaches were besieged by fans asking them to autograph the massive game program. Executing the game plan perfectly, the Cards jumped out to a quick lead. The team's transition game was firing on all cylinders.
No good. Oh, Edwards, he's got time up. 6-4. Look at a movement. Put it out, or rather Wilson puts it up, no good.
The Cards led 35-33 at the half. 16 minutes until an undefeated season and all objectives met. The Stags made a strong run in the third quarter. Pat Sass goes to the bench with 3 fouls. DeMatha gained a 55-54 lead entering the fourth quarter. The Cards suffered a huge blow when Farrell, scrambling after a loose ball, experienced a broken ankle, leaving the game with 7:39 remaining. Amatucci called a timeout to refocus the dazed squad.
They are undefeated this year, but that is in jeopardy with 3 minutes to go. DeMatha with a 2-point lead. And with the score, DeMatha 75, Calvert Hall 73 will take this timeout. So Farrell is coming out of the ball game. Wayne Farrell.
The Stags, benefiting from Farrell's absence, led 75-70 with 3:30 left. The Cards turned on their half-court trap and quickly earned 2 straight turnovers. Sixth man Mark Kaufman, playing fearlessly, led the defensive charge. On the offensive end, Wilson made a steal, hit Tubman down the sideline for a basket, knotting the game at 75.
75 all with 1:42 to go. Let's see what Calvert Hall does now. They make a play man. He wants to bring them out to let them play, make them play the man. There they come. Mark Kaufman. We're down to 1:20, 75 all.
Wilson provided the Cards with the lead with a jumper with the clock just under a minute. Edwards converted on a pair of free throws. Wilson, completing a 3-point play, stole the ensuing inbounds pass and laid it in. The DeMatha coach hung his head. The end was lightning quick and decisive. In the last 3:30, the Cards outscored the Stags 12-1. Final 82-76. Mission accomplished. #1 team in the nation, wire to wire.
Calvert Hall has gone undefeated in 34 games, rated #1 in the nation, and just won the 22nd annual Al Hambra tournament.
It couldn't have happened any better, too. It's a unique bunch of kids that I've had for 3 years, and we've been telling everybody the reason why we win is because we always play together and we pull for one another. And if things get tight, that's when we play our best. And again, being able to do that in this situation tonight, really shows what kind of team Calvert Hall is. They're the greatest bunch of kids in the world. They really are.
Well, let me jump up here to Paul Edwards. As I said, he just had a great tournament. He was the most valuable player, also selected to the all-tournament team, as was Mark Wilson.
Before the season started, were you actually thinking in terms of the Alhambra tournament again?
Yes, definitely, because this is the one that we wanted to win. Whether we knew we had to win the Catholic League.
Right.
But if we would beat the Catholic League, being ranked #1 in the nation wasn't a goal at all. But winning Alhambra was the goal.
The 3 games we played were probably against the 3 best teams consecutively all year long, and that is quite an achievement in itself. So definitely, if there is a #1 high school team in the country, we are that, because we've proved it, in the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, and now we've proved it up here.
Tell me a little something very quickly about Mark Wilson, because he was on the all tournament. He was the best defensive player, and he was also the outstanding player in the tournament. So he did not come up. He's down in the dressing room.
Yeah, I think that getting the defensive player award, really makes him happy. Last night we
were the top scorer. Yeah.
Yeah, last night when we got back from the Mackin game, he was really excited because he held Johnny Dawkins to 16 points. And if there has been a tendency of a weakness in Mark's game, it has been his defense. But the second half of the year, he's really put it together. And Mark Wilson's the best guard in the country, and I think he proved that again up here.
You agree with that, don't you?
Definitely.
Well, I'll tell you,
he's the best small forward in the country. He keeps proving it over and over again.
Yeah, well, if the ball's loose, I figure nobody wants it but me.
Oh my goodness! Every year we have one guy that always seems to find his way up here. They call him Pop Tubman. Now, he's probably one of the smallest guys in the tournament. He's also one of the most explosive. Why didn't you come up here when your coach was here? You a little afraid of him?
Well, I really didn't know, and I was, busy signing autographs, and I was saying hello to my mom and everything.
Are you the spokesman for this team?
Well, on and off the court, but mostly on the court.
It was a journey that started 3 years previous to beating DeMatha in that championship game, and basically they bought into my philosophy about, hey, it's more about attitude, it's more about work ethic, it's more about every time you step on that court, you have to give 100%.
It was the way they shared the basketball. It was that good spirit. It was their willingness to work hard. All those things kind of came together to make that team, greater than the sum of the parts.
It got to the point where it didn't matter who we were playing, how big they were, how nationally ranked they were, what the history was. They were going to go out and beat them.
Well, I think for that team, winning the big games was really about preparation. It was about respecting our opponent, but not assuming that our opponent was better than we were. We always assumed we could win every game.
They put their egos aside, and if you started, that was great. If you were coming off the bench, that didn't piss them off.
It wasn't who started the games, it was the important guy on the team. It was who finished the game, right? And that everybody makes a contribution.
We played 32 minutes of full court man-to-man defense, and we would trap out of that, and we would double team in the half court, double team in the full court, and we did it for 32 minutes because we conditioned ourselves, all right, to play that style. Individually, they were stars, but as a team, everyone had a specific role in achieving greatness, and they were a bunch of confident and selfless individuals. Whatever the definition of family might be, this group epitomized that true definition. To say they were special is an understatement, the likes of which will never be duplicated.
I'm so in love with
What I remember most about the last game, after we had won the Alhambra, during the trophy presentation, the whole team started crying. We realized this was the last time we were ever going to play together. So it was a bittersweet moment because a special era at the Hall had come to an end.
Number one in the nation, Calvert Hall has gone undefeated in 34 games.
It's a unique bunch of kids that I've had for 3 years. The reason why we win is because we always play together. We pull for one another.
After the season, the Cards would head down different roads. Amatucci would take the reins at Loyola College of Baltimore, Wilson to Minnesota, Tubman to Oakland University, Edwards to Mount St. Mary's. 2 years later, Farrell would go on to star at Georgia Tech and a long career in the NBA. Their legacy and contribution to Calvert Hall basketball, however, would be permanent. There had been a steady progression from Amatucci's first day on the job through the final buzzer versus DeMatha. More than basketball, more than wins and points scored, lessons were learned and values embraced.
Come on.
Preparation, attention to detail, trust, positivity, loyalty, relentlessness, fearlessness. These were trademarks of Amatucci's program, expressed with exclamation points by the national championship squad. Trademarks as individuals each would take with him on leaving the Hall, and trademarks left behind for those who would follow wearing the red and gold.
And to me, the formula that made you successful, that made all the players successful in the Calvert Hall and Loyola College basketball family, were the 4 Ps. And it was simple. Whatever you are doing in life, you have to have passion. You have to want to practice. You have to be persistent with your practice, and you have to persevere. And if you practice those 4 Ps, you are going to be productive. You will be successful.
Amatucci would take the reins at Loyola College of Baltimore.
Again, I kind of went in there with some blind eyes, and I immediately found out after probably the first month of talking to the players and getting a chance to watch some films that the national championship team from 1982 could probably whip their ass. So, it was obviously a great opportunity for me, but I knew I was going to have to start from scratch.
After a year of getting the foundation set, Amatucci went out to the Baltimore, Washington, and Philadelphia Catholic Leagues to recruit a class of players with the heart, attitude, and ability to put their stamp on Loyola College basketball as a Division I program.
We were very successful. We were able to bring in guys from Philadelphia like Tommy Lee, who went to Roman Catholic High School, Tommy Gormley, who went to Monsignor Bonner High School in Philadelphia, David Gately, is a former coach here at Calvert Hall. He was a graduate of Mount St. Joe. And, again, we were building the foundation by bringing in those kind of student athletes, again, with the right attitude, from winning programs, from being good, strong students. And then the coup de grace that, we were able to pick up in my second year there was Mike Morrison, who went on to, play in the NBA and had a great career at Loyola with me.
Oh, man, I think my second day of practice, he kicked me out because I wasn't doing my warm-up drills in a timely manner. I dropped the ball off the rack, and it was crazy, man, because it was like the walk of the big green monster. When you hear that plastic jacket coming from behind that curtain, everybody hops into position because he was a no nonsense guy. And
the life lessons and the teachings at Loyola College and what Coach Amatucci brought to Loyola College was identical to what he had it and instilled in the Calvert Hall basketball program. And you think back to bringing in people that are talented but team players. And if you weren't a team player, you weren't going to survive. You weren't going to survive at Calvert Hall. You weren't going to survive at Loyola College.
When kids say, if I could get somebody to believe in me, I can achieve anything, that was Mark Amatucci and me. You know, he saw my talent, he saw my abilities, and he took a chance.
When it came to practice, you knew you were going to have to work, and there wasn't any pushback. Coach would come in, he had his agenda, and you needed to deliver on the agenda. And if you didn't get it right, if we were on number 2 of a 7-point agenda, if you didn't get number 2 right, you would continue on number 2 until you got it right.
You know, this is a job. Fun was not allowed. Fun came when you won. So everything that we did, it was business, especially when you stepped in between those lines. You put the outside world behind you. We were here with a purpose.
He was more of a vocal coach. He would definitely, ream us out before practice, after practice, during practice. It didn't matter if you were freshman, sophomore, last man off the bench. It didn't matter. Treated everyone the same.
And it was not uncommon to have 3-hour practices with no water.
And we used to practice for 4 hours. Not 2, not 3, 4 hours. And because we could not legally get water.
At Calvert Hall basketball practice, you have absolutely no water breaks.
I was guarding Jack McClinton in practice, and I'm like, man, listen, I need some water, bro. Like, I looked at Jack, and I was like, yo, bro, when we get a water break? This is my sophomore year. I'm like, yo, when do we get a water break? He like, water? Nigga, what? We don't get no water? So I was like, we don't get no water. When I got to those other places, it was like, yo, you guys are drinking water? Like, coach, you actually giving them 10, 15 minutes to get some water? Like, this is unheard of. And I think Tooch actually, prided himself on, us being in better shape than everyone.
For sure what Coach Tooch was doing, with the hard practices and holding us accountable as players and making sure we were doing what we were supposed to do academically, that was just putting us in a situation, putting us in a place that we needed to be to move forward.
Practicing, playing for Coach Tooch brought out the best in me, man. He, when anyone holds you to a higher standard than you expect of yourself, you either got 2 choices. Let it crush you or let it raise you to above what you ever could believe or think that you could be in. As far as I'm concerned, man, he raised my abilities beyond what I believed. There's no way, man, you could have told me that playing at Loyola, I would be a draft pick.
At Loyola College, we thought we really had the program moving into a mid-major Division I level, and there was no reason for me to think that wasn't going to happen. Unfortunately, I got in some trouble with the NCAA for some violations of NCAA rules that were, in my mind, completely ridiculous. Things like, driving one of my players to see his academic tutor during the summertime when the guys were taking summer classes. I loaned them, less than $5 a person to go to the grocery store, and buy food, and which was all paid back. And we practiced, which we weren't really allowed to do, but it was something during the summertime that I thought, without me being there, all right, with my assistant coaches being there, without me being there, I thought that was something that we had to do, and that turned into an NCAA violation as well. So we got nailed. I wasn't able to go and recruit off campus, for a whole year. So when those guys graduated, Gormley, Gately, Aubrey Reverly, Tommy Lee, when they all Pop Tubman, when they all graduated, I was left with, a group of recruits that I really never had an opportunity to recruit in person. When I look back on the the violations that occurred with the NCAA, I could have handled it a lot better. I could have been a little smarter. When I had to go forward, and meet with the committee out there, I didn't represent myself very well. I was still angry. I was bitter. I didn't think that Loyola College and myself deserved to be sanctioned for the minor things that did occur. And instead of admitting that I was wrong, I held my ground and basically came across as being kind of arrogant and not very apologetic about what had happened. It was something that you learn that you have to sometimes admit when you should have done something a different way. And again, I was being very hard-headed and didn't handle it the way I should have. So basically, I parted ways with Loyola in I think 1989. And it was bad. I took it hard. I mean, I was depressed. I didn't know what direction I was going to go in. I knew I wanted to stay in coaching. And as always, the Lord's looking out for you. And I was able to, get an opportunity to coach at Anne Arundel Community College for 2.5 years. And we had the same kind of success down there. After my second year there, we were ranked number 2 nationally in the country at one time. And then from there, I went on to Washington College as an assistant coach down there. What really set the table for my return back to Calvert Hall.
Amatucci returned to the Hall and would remain for 14 years. Starting out, he had a solid young foundation to build with. Williams, McKay, and Witherspoon, who could play Amatucci's way.
Walking into, the fall of 1993, the cupboard was a little bare. There were some good players, there were some bad players, there were some good attitudes, there were some bad attitudes. And again, I just reverted back to doing what was successful for me at Calvert Hall the first time, what worked at Loyola College, that worked for me at Anne Arundel, and worked for me as an assistant at Washington College in Chestertown. Very quickly, I made it clear to the kids that the opportunity to play at Calvert Hall next year was an open door. Nobody was guaranteed a position. If you didn't like where I was coming from, you could transfer or you could just turn your stuff in right now. The guys that made that team, which included former head coach John Bowersfeld, those guys understood where I was coming from, and slowly but surely, we were able to get the confidence, get the attitude, put it all together, and we ended up winning 17 games that first year.
We hugged many a times after practice. I would be so frustrated after practice that I would just kind of attack him. We would wrestle. I got tired of him fussing and yelling, so I said, forget it. I don't think I won any, but I still was going to go after him. I wrestled him after every practice with him fussing and yelling and all of that. But, it kind of made me closer to him because, he allowed me to see him as a person.
He was very hard on you, but there was a reason, there was a method behind his madness. You might not have understood it at the time, but you respected him enough to believe in what he was trying to accomplish, and you really bought into what he was selling. So, on the outside, it seemed like he was always howling and screaming. We used to always joke, that's just the way he talks. And you have to get underneath all those layers. And a lot of times people never saw him relating to us players, whether it was in his office during the study hall or, during free periods, really caring and concerned about us, what we're doing in school, so on and so forth.
Rewinding to 1977, Amatucci headed to the city to recruit players who fit the Hall mold, specifically to recruit Madison Buccaneers. The Cards' rebirth would be accelerated in 1994 with the arrival of a skinny sophomore transfer from Lake Clifton High. Juan Dixon.
After a year at public high school, Dixon transferred to Calvert Hall and moved in with an older cousin who lived closer to the all-male Catholic prep school.
He stayed with me during high school, and I cared for him and loved him and did the things that a mother would do for a child.
We had lots of heart-to-heart talks. We talked about school, we talked about college, we talked about his relationships outside of school. But when it came to mom and dad, he was guarded and didn't show his hand a whole lot.
On the court, he was talented and undersized, but his resolve was huge.
Nobody believed I could play at Calvert Hall, and I just wanted to prove people wrong and be one of the better high school players in Baltimore City.
With Dixon leading the way, the Cards would win 2 MIAA championships and duel St. Francis in 3 straight Catholic League finals. Over his 3 seasons at Calvert Hall, Dixon would excel on the court. His shooting skills, basketball IQ, positive personality, and most importantly, his heart stood out. The Hall prepared him for the next steps in the classroom and on the court. Amatucci had an uncanny ability to develop teams that emphasized unity while creating a forum for talented players to maximize their individual abilities. 2 outstanding examples of this phenomena were Reggie Bryant and Ricky Harris.
Calvert Hall basketball is a great tradition. It's past, present, and future. All come together, all at once.
I think playing at Calvert Hall prepared me for, the mental battles that come with playing Division I basketball. Then when I got to UMass, that was a different monster in itself as far as the physicality of basketball, the size and things like that. But I think from a mental aspect and the mental approach, I think I was more prepared than the other freshmen that came in with me just because, I faced adversity before at Calvert Hall, freshman year, sophomore year.
In 2 years, Harris scored over 1,200 points with 1,500 for his career. After becoming the 3rd all-time leading scorer at UMass behind Marcus Camby and Dr. J, Harris continues to have a successful overseas career. In 2000, a special player reached out to Amatucci. Gary Neal, who had already built a reputation as a talented player at a local public school, was interested in the strong academics and tougher competition available at Calvert Hall.
Coming off of my sophomore year, coming off the state championship, like my family, we were all just looking for a place, that was better academically and better basketball. And of course, we were looking at Calvert Hall, and we reached out to our AAU coaches, and they kind of brought Calvert Hall up. And that's pretty much how the process started for me. Like, I did a little bit of research, and you kind of got to remember at this time, Juan Dixon is, I think, on his first run to the Final Four. So, Juan's name was popping, and Calvert Hall was really jumping.
6'4" with a great shooting touch, Neal averaged 19.5 points for the Cards and earned all Metro and all BCL honors. At LaSalle, he would earn League Rookie of the Year recognition and would lead the team in scoring as a sophomore. He later transferred to Towson University, where he was all Colonial Athletic Conference, averaging 25.3 points per game. His performance in the European leagues earned him a tryout with the San Antonio Spurs. He would have a 6-year career in the league. In a 32-year coaching career, Amatucci was interviewed many times about his philosophy, methods, and purpose. His response never wavered. He is a teacher first and foremost. The court, his classroom.
I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to coach as well. And I always looked at coaching as teaching. And I believe that I could send a message to my students, to my players, more about the importance of values and being a quality person and understanding that, you have to work hard. We talk about the 4 Ps. You have to have passion. You have to want to practice. You have to have perseverance. You just have to have those type of values if you're going to be successful in life. And that was basically my goal when I started getting into education. And again, I looked at coaching as just another segue to teaching young men.
His teams of players always set high goals, drilled in values that would serve them well on the court and in life. He embraced loyalty and family. His players learned his lessons well. In 2014, Calvert Hall established the Mark Abitucci Scholarship to honor Mark's contributions to Calvert Hall and his players.
You know, I'm able to give back to Calvert Hall students and help them achieve some of the goals and some of the successes that I was able to achieve because of all the help that I got. And it's just something that I think is the greatest accomplishment and the greatest achievement that I've been able to establish here since I stopped coaching.
Abitucci has worked tirelessly to help build the scholarship so other young men may receive an outstanding education and learn valuable life lessons from the outstanding faculty and coaches of Calvert Hall. The scholarship fund, which now exceeds $500,000, currently supports 6 students at the Hall. An annual bourbon night brings out generations of Hall hoopsters to support the scholarship. Although Abitucci's sideline career is over, the enthusiasm and spirit of his former players and coaches is not diminished. To a man, they still carry the Hall's iconic swagger, focused and motivated with a smile on their face.
You know, I learned the majority of my coaching skills from Coach Bender, who was also the varsity baseball coach at the time that I was attending Calvert Hall. So based on what I learned from Joe, and then I was a keen observer. You know, I would watch how other coaches prepared their game plan. I would watch their style, and that all bought into, as far as I was concerned, the determination that I was going to do it a certain way. And the way we did it was completely opposite of what the majority of teams in the Catholic League did. I wasn't really, thinking about winning a national championship or coaching Division I or, having guys, playing in the NBA. I was a teacher, and I just wanted to go in and, do the best I could to make that person individually a quality person, and also get better at either being a student or being a basketball player or being in the band. It didn't matter to me. I was out there and I was going to be a crusader to make sure every student was going to have an opportunity to, become a quality person in a quality environment. And, I guess at the end of the day, it's worked out pretty well.
In 2014, when the floor at Calvert Hall was dedicated to Abitucci, over 80 of Tooch's players, managers, and coaches gathered to honor Coach Tooch.
But you got to have friends. The feelings are so strong. You got to have friends to make that day last long. I had some friends, but they're gone. Something came and took them away, and from the dusk till the dawn.
In order to be successful, I was going to need people who could really buy into what I was selling, and I wanted people to challenge me. I just didn't want to, bring people on the staff that were going to be yes men and everything I said they would agree with. I wanted coaches who, again, believed in, developing young men's talents, okay, and they believed in making equal opportunities for, our people of color. That they also bought into the diversity issue that they knew was really a part of my whole makeup. So if you look at the guys who, have coached with me, and continue to be a part of a program, I wanted to bring Calvert Hall people back into the program to coach. So you had Coach Baker, Coach Devlin, Coach Reef, Coach Mazzotti. You got Gary, John Bowers fell before Gary. Gary's part of the family. Gary's back. Gary understands the culture. He understands the need for diversity. He understands, what it takes to be successful.
Charleston was once the rage. History has turned the page. The miniskirt's the current thing. Teeny Bopper, our newborn king. And the beat goes on.
Where did all that spirit come from? And it's kind of easy, and again, this whole production is about spirit, and it's about equality, and it's about justice, and it's about diversity. And that spirit, was really coming through Paul Kinney. So at the end of the day, all right, this is all about Paul Kinney. And without Paul Kinney, I don't think that there's the success on and off the court. When you think about it, if there isn't any Paul Kinney, we're not having this movie. There is no Limits, the book, and we're not having any conversation about how this all got started and why it continues today, because it continues today with Gary Neal. So you know what? Yeah, Paul Kinney, it's all about you.
Paul Kinney, Paul Kinney, this is a house that Jack built, y'all. Remember this house? This was the land that he worked by hand. It was the dream of an upright man. There was a room that was filled with love. It was a love that I was proud of. This is a life that he planned on the
What are guys doing now professionally?
Remember this house? There was a fence that held our love. Yes, it was. There was a gate that he walked out of. This is my heart, it has turned to stone. Yes, it is.
When they talk about someone's legacy, there's two characteristics, and this is for a coach, a teacher, a mentor. The first is the quality of their relationships. The quality of their relationships and their friendships. And then the second, when you look at someone's legacy, is the impact that they've had on others and the ability to inspire others to do great things, to go on and do more, and to give that back. And coach, by those measures, you're off the charts.